We is the Non-Prophets. Damn right. We are Russell Glasser, Jeff D., and me, Denis Loubet, and we're coming to you live on the 3rd of January, 2018 from the Austin Free Thought Library in Austin, Texas. Religionists be damned. Believers only wish they was sponsored by a non-profit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state like the Atheist Community of Austin. It's just too bad they can't call the ACA voicemail at 512-220-6561 or visit their website at www.atheist-community.org because they're too damn envious to ever admit they're wrong. I know it. They know it. Everyone knows it. If they didn't care that the Non-Prophets broadcast live every first and third Wednesday of each month from 7:30 to 9 Central Time, you'd think they'd just shut up instead of carrying on like they do. Of course, they're too afraid of what might happen if they actually talk to us, so they don't dare follow the directions at www.nonprofitsradio.com to do their carrying on in our chat room. So, you got nothing to worry about. Just sit back and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
Everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. It is a bit happy so far.
A bit.
We're here, aren't we?
We are.
We're still
We are,
here,
but
yes.
we've gotten one of our biggest threats against the possibility of continuing being here recently, in by way of
Form of a tweet.
By the way of a tweet. Gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's another season under our belts. We're starting season 17, we've just been informed.
17.
It's 2018, and it's season 17, which means if you ever want to know what season it is of the Atheist Experience, you just subtract 2001 from the year, and that's the season that it is.
Okay.
All right.
That's easy mnemonic. Subtract 2001. But we actually, we skipped a year, didn't we?
At
least
a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember very well, though, that we started before the thing that happened in 2001, and we were talking about the Taliban before it was cool.
Yeah.
And then
before
we
it was
like,
cool? It's cool now, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It was
Never cool.
But before anyone else was talking about it.
Well, yeah, because that would have been if we skipped a year during the big hiatus, then we would have started in 2000, and then you could subtract 2000 and get our season number, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Boy, if we
Could have been 1999 if we skipped more than that. Who knows? Who remembers these things? I don't know. Probably some wiki page somewhere.
If we end up on Netflix, it's going to be a long time to completely finish your binge listening.
Babies conceived at the start of our show would now be...
they could be listening now.
They would be adults now.
Mm-hmm.
So... want to welcome all the babies that were born during the first year of our show. Not that we've ever gotten any listener feedback about how they like to attempt to conceive
during our show.
We're such a big turn.
I don't think we were doing.
I don't think that's
reading
happening.
email back when we started on.
That's true.
What was it? The Infidel
That's
Guys
true.
That's right.
Network.
Yeah.
The intro to our first show wasn't, "Oh, baby." It's just, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Smooth jazz.
So, yeah.
Well, did you guys have a nice holiday, at least?
Mm-hmm.
A nice non-denominational whatever?
Sure.
I got ill, but I'm getting better.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a Vive.
It's okay. There were no plans in existence to be thrown out of whack by getting ill, so that's fine, too.
I worked a lot, but I also, for the first time in recent months, had a little bit of free time to goof off a bit. So I goofed off a bit. Amanda and I played Mice and Mystics.
What's that?
One night. It's a board game. It's like a fantasy role-playing game, except the conceit is that you're people who have been turned into mice.
Okay.
And the scenarios are that you have these different pieces of board that have different map sections on them, and you lay out different arrangements of them, and you have different goals to achieve. And then there's the bad guy has rats that used to be their warriors, and you have like a wizard mouse and a priest mouse and an archer mouse and stuff.
Sounds cool. Actually, it sounds like some book series that I'm too old for. But Redwall, I think, is a series about mice. I played a lot of, different things, but I really liked I Expect You to Die, which is
that about mice?
Among the first virtual reality games I got for my Vive. And I realized the secret of making a good VR game is a lot of people get motion sick while playing 3D games, so what makes a VR game work is if you are largely stationary. And so I Expect You to Die casts you in the role of a secret agent who is sitting in a car trying to escape from a plane, or on a train that's been hijacked, or behind a desk.
So it's like an escape room thing, but different scenarios.
Yes, it's like an escape room, and you actually get to die over and over again. So that's pretty fun.
So we had a control room. We had some of our audio.
Oh,
wow!
There
oh
it
my
goes.
gosh, are we better now?
Well, that's better.
I don't know.
Okay, leave it.
Wait.
Don't touch it again.
Well,
He's going to touch it again.
I don't. Oh, okay. I'm louder now. Good.
We have a little
For
control
myself.
box here, and we were losing sound in one earphone. So Dennis started fiddling with the things, and then we got crackling, and
But we're okay now.
I guess we're okay.
It sounds pretty good now.
Cool. So you got a VR game. That's neat.
Yes, a bunch.
You got a bunch.
Dodging bullets in slow motion in VR is also pretty fun.
Oh, I'll bet.
Played a lot of Super Hot.
Cool.
If you guys want to check it out sometime,
Yes, I will.
You're welcome to drop me a line and come by, because we got our whole little VR nook set up.
Cool.
A VR nook.
Yeah.
That's
or
in the
you
regular old
stand
nook
up
sufficient
and
for
do
reading
stuff.
your books.
Well,
You have to read them in virtual
you
reality.
can actually probably download a program that lets you read an ebook pretending that you're holding an actual book in your face. But it may not be very satisfying.
now. Yeah. I saw a bunch of good movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm just going to mention the three most recent ones.
Okay.
We saw more than this, but the three most recent ones were all kind of, for me anyway, seemed a bit of risk that they might not be very good. Mm-hmm. But they all turned out to be, in our opinion, me and my spouse, awesome. One was Downsizing.
I saw that. And
It's gotten a bad rap in
awesome.
reviews. I would say, for those of you who have heard bad reviews, I think the problem is that the first previews didn't really hint at all at what the movie was actually about.
Right.
They do a good job with the shrinking people thing, right?
Yeah.
But the movie's not. It's not just a science fiction movie about shrinking people. It is a movie about both larger and more personal issues, with the shrinking as just a way into those issues. And I thought that was awesome. And then
excellent.
Coco, Dennis recommended Coco to me, but for some
I
reason,
recommended it to Dennis first.
okay,
Okay.
Russell recommended it
I
to
thought
Dennis,
I
and then
enjoyed it.
Dennis recommended it to me, and then my wife said, "What's wrong with you? Haven't you heard how awesome this is?" And and it was indeed awesome. I don't know. For some reason I didn't think, because there was some other movie recently that was like Mexican.
Book of Life, I've heard,
Yeah.
is very similar.
Yeah.
And there were some speculations that Pixar might have partially ripped off their ideas, but they're just speculations that I've heard.
So I was slightly hesitant, but it turned out to be awesome. And
I have
we might talk
Pixar
about that one a
quality,
little
as
bit
you
later.
This week I saw it for the third time and
Wow.
also bought the soundtrack.
Wow,
So,
we have gone to see Downsizing for a second time.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we wanted to take Dennis.
Yeah.
I see
and
that it
was good.
has Kristen
then-
Wiig in it, and I think she's pretty funny.
And then the third one was, what was the third one that we saw recently?
Oh, Shape of...
Shape of Water. The latest
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
enjoyed
Really good. Don't go in there thinking it has something to do with Hellboy just because it's got the same actor playing the same kind of fish creature. It's really a different.
Doesn't have anything to do with Pan's Labyrinth either, I hope.
No.
Right, no.
It doesn't. So, yeah, really good. Really good.
I saw the new Jumanji, which was actually also better than I thought.
I've had that one recommended to me.
Yeah.
I think it is kind of on par with the original movie in that it is not like an enduring classic that I would say, you haven't seen that, but it is a movie that I was very entertained by all the way through. And same with the original.
Why does that movie pick on Jews in particular?
Jumanji.
It's about Jews eating. There's nothing. There's nothing picking on it about that.
Yeah, okay. Right.
But
so it's like
I'm going to say this:
movie.
The Rock as an actor has been a guilty pleasure of mine for a long time. He's a very funny guy.
He is.
Yeah. All right. So shall we move on to news or something? Because it's a new year, and there's hardly been any time for anything to happen. But
Yes.
Well, I mean, do you want me to talk about the fact that you don't usually like me talking about things overtly political?
we'll try to find.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, is it relevant?
No.
To our show at all?
Well, I mean,
you've already talked about the tweet about
the end of the world.
Yeah.
Which
I'm not. It's weird. I don't know why I'm not. It's just yet the latest in a string of the stupidest things that the person in our White House could possibly do.
Yeah. But let me see.
And I'll just say to make that not partisan, I will just remind everyone, my dad was a Republican, and my dad would not have supported this kind of crap. Republicans used to be kind of like stodgy and serious, and and their nose down in the numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
which was fine, right? Because our country can benefit from that kind of attention from people that make that their priority. I don't want it to be in charge, but I think they have something to contribute, and that's not.
And other listeners are perfectly welcome to disagree. But I mean, I think we have had a president for a while who is like openly contemptuous of the idea of finding out facts, and he has a kind of skepticism, which is basically call everything fake that he doesn't agree with.
Yeah.
But I mean, he just seems like a guy who says whatever bullshit comes into his head without regard for what's true.
This is an atheist show. We care about what's actually true and not just what it feels good to believe. And so we're just going to have to dutifully say that our president is full of crap when he implies that that the facts are nebulous and untrustworthy and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let me see what came across my feed recently via Hemant Mehta, the friendly atheist. A Texas mall put up a giant Ten Commandments monument.
Yeah,
sure.
That's fine. They're allowed to do that.
They're allowed to do that.
I'm not going there, but...
No. The newly named Music City Mall in Lewisville, Texas, has a new attraction. It's a giant Ten Commandments monument installed by new owner John Bushman. Now you can see a display that reminds you not to have other gods before God before you go to Spencer's to buy fake vomit.
Right.
We're not trying to make a statement or create a controversy.
Oh, no.
The hell you're not, said mall general manager Richard Morton. This is part of Mr. Bushman's belief system, and he's not ashamed to share it.
No, it's just the local gas station that has some Christian symbol on their sign as a little There's a little message there that the owner there is Christian. Okay, fine, you're allowed to do that.
Yep.
Right.
It's on a bigger scale, but then it's a bigger thing.
Yeah, I mean, he says he's not trying to make a statement. I think he must think everybody listening is an idiot to believe that.
Right, sure. The claim that it's not
right.
And not pushing is obviously bullshit. But what but he's allowed to.
Yes, and he
Not
is
government.
completely welcome to do that, and I feel like he is hoping
welcome
that somebody
is different
will,
from allowed.
Well, okay, yes. I feel like he's hoping that somebody is going to come and try to sue him for it, and I
Right.
don't think
Private
think
property.
anyone sees
If he's
any
really
grounds for
lucky, there
giving-
might be that lunatic that likes to drive around and run into him.
Now, it is a mall. There might be some people in the mall who don't appreciate that, but
Yeah,
hey,
or those people might not be in that mall anymore.
that's true.
But I mean,
or
let's
not
face
appreciating
it,
it.
there are a lot of industries that are dying in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
2018 now. I got to get used to saying that.
Mhm.
And
So you could just take the
Based-
season of our show and add 2001, and then you'll know what year
Yes.
it is.
good, because I always have the season of our show memorized. I'm just saying, I've been to malls over the years, and I've witnessed what looks like a logarithmic graph
Right.
of it gradually, of them gradually clearing out. And,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's not going to hurt anyone to miss the experience of going to this mall if they don't feel like going to one.
We've been to malls from both sides now.
Sorry. All right.
So that's happening.
Yeah. Shall I do a letter?
Please.
Anders writes, as atheists, we are sometimes asked, why are you angry at God? And the
Yes.
traditional answer is, I'm not angry at God any more than I am angry at Santa Claus. The implication being that it's silly to be angry at fictional characters. I don't think that's true, says Anders. One of the reasons I read fiction is because I get emotionally invested in characters which I know are fictional. Do I think Eponine in Les Miserables is a real character? No, but I still feel her loneliness and sense of rejection. Do I think Othello is fictional? Yes, but I still get upset that he's so ready to believe that Desdemona has been unfaithful to him. So I'm angry at God in the same way that I'm angry at Anakin Skywalker for betraying the Jedi Order. No, what do you guys think about this?
Perfectly valid
I
point,
agree.
I think.
He's welcome to it. I don't.
I can be angry
I don't
at
have the same
fictional
experience
characters.
him. Nah. No.
I mean, I go to movies to be emotionally manipulated, and hate is
Go.
one of those
I-
emotions. So,
I can't think of a time when I've read or watched a movie or something and encountered a fictional character doing some horrible thing and been mad at that character.
Oh, come on.
I have responded like, "Holy crap! Look at all that evil," right?
yeah,
It can even make me laugh, right? Because it's just so there's over the top evil happening, and it has the effect of making me feel better about the backlash that character receives from the good characters.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I can't. I've never been angry at not any more than I've been proud. Well,
I certainly have. So,
I was about to say I've not been proud of good guys, but I think I do feel a bit of that sometimes.
Sure.
But anger at the bad guys? Jeez. No.
I actually, it's one of my
Sickened,
benchmarks.
annoyed, maybe.
I mean,
Angry? I don't know.
so
Not
it
me.
is, for me, there's anger with some complexity to it because one of my benchmarks for great authors is when they build bad guys that you love to hate. And I often find myself feeling outraged at something a bad guy does and also delighted
Yeah,
at
but
the opportunity to feel like for instance, Prince Joffrey, who it's not a spoiler to say he's a very bad guy and not say anything about what he does or what happens to him. But he sucks, and I delight in seeing the depths he goes to, followed by
I have been reduced to red-faced, sputtering fury.
Yeah.
Over my anger at real people. Mm-hmm. Never gotten anywhere near that with a fictional character. Never. Never. And you'd think with a fictional character, they could do a much better job of being deserving of my anger. But sometimes I think the knowledge that they are fake prevents me from feeling it at that level, and it could be just a matter of where I draw the line, on what I'm willing to call actual anger.
Now, for me, I do not feel that anger toward God or anyone in the Bible because, frankly, the Bible is not a good enough story for me to be emotionally invested in.
Yeah,
it's just hack work as far as I can tell when it comes to telling stories. There are really broad villains who just aren't interesting or relatable in any way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Pharaoh or who's a bad guy in the Bible even, or who's meant to be a bad guy. Because God comes across as a bad guy.
Yeah. What's worse than Satan?
Onan.
God.
Supposed to be a bad guy.
Onan is...
Cain.
Yeah, nope. Can't feel mad
Red-faced, sputtering fury. How dare you spill your seed upon the ground when God wanted you to impregnate your brother's wife? How dare you?
The story of Cain could probably make me mad if it was told competently, but it's very, very short. It's like, and this guy, the story of a brother betraying another brother.
Abraham, right? Where he was going to murder his kid. Oh, I'm sorry. He's supposed to be a good guy.
Right.
Oops.
Perfectly well.
Yeah, no, Andrews is totally, I think we'd all agree. It's, it's totally your deal what
angers you.
What angers you.
Yeah.
And we're not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I guess I'm the one that is not feeling anything I would call the same as you, but that's not my job. So fine, say that to Christians if you want. I think when you say that to them, they're gonna smugly think they've scored a point. But
Right. And
they often feel that way no matter what you say to them. So
don't think you're speaking for all of us, but it's legit to say that a fictional story can make you feel things.
Yeah, absolutely. How about a real story now?
How about a real story?
Get a real story that will make us feel things?
Well, here's a kind of villain.
All about the feeling.
According to timesfreepress.com, in Dalton, which is in Georgia, looks like, a spokesman with the Georgia Secretary of State's office said Daniel Stotts, a counselor who was allegedly practicing without a license. They said he's not licensed to provide counseling or therapy in the state. A search on the Tennessee Department of Health's website also does not show Stotts as licensed in that state.
Okay.
I thought there was some abuse involved in this story. It's going to be kind of dull if there's not.
If it's just a Christian claiming that he's providing licensed therapy when he isn't, then that would be mildly interesting.
Dalton police arrested him last week after two women accused him of making sexual advances. Phew. According to an incident report. No,
what?
That's
your reaction?
The women. That's what I mean.
Yes.
According to an incident report, a woman began seeing Daniel Stotts at Helping the Hurting, a Christian-based counseling service, in August. The woman said she was ordered to see a counselor as part of her probation. Oh, now I'm angry.
Wow, yeah.
Because that's church and state.
Yep.
Yeah. And Stott's services were cheapest. During her first visit, she told officers Stott said he and his wife were in an open relationship and it would be okay for the woman to send him pictures.
He doesn't pay the licensing fees and passes the savings on to you.
Yeah.
And then makes a pass at you. Okay.
Wow. That's
Yes.
yeah. We're in an open relationship. Wow, really smooth guy.
Hey, all right.
A Dalton detective told the woman he wasn't sure if Stotts had broken the law. However, he continued to investigate. Dalton police spokesman Bruce Frazier said the detective found a second client of Stotts who said the counselor fondled her breasts during a visit in July. And there are actual sex acts involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, which ones? No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I thought I would just make you uncomfortable there.
This has some genuine sex, not just act. I mean, it would be.
And to be clear, in case there are listeners who are confused about the issue, hopefully we don't have any of those, but it's okay to be in an open relationship. It's okay to flirt with people and make passes at them.
Not okay to use the perceived your perceived authority as a counselor, to manipulate people.
In many cases, that can actually meet the legal definition of rape. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
You guys ready to talk about Star Trek Transporter some more? Sweet.
Yes.
Go for it.
I think that, it's my fault because I'm the one that is really kind of adhering to a extremist transhumanist issue viewpoint on this. And so okay. Christina from Denmark says, I was listening to your latest episode, and I had a comment about your discussion of what constitutes a person's self and how a Star Trek transporter could affect that. Personally, I agree with you to some degree.
Who's you?
All of us.
We disagree with each other.
Do any of us think that our identity is our physical body, period?
No. Dennis?
Right. No.
Okay. All right. So there.
Okay.
She agrees with all three of us. But my data / software of my mind. However, I also think that I am this specific instance of that data / software that's running right now and experiencing stuff.
Right.
An exact duplicate would be outwardly identical, but I don't think you've supported your claim that it would necessarily be identical from the transported person's perspective. Well,
here we go again.
okay, so you got one copy of the software, and then you make an identical copy of that software. At that instant, assuming the software is conscious, which is here's a thing, we're immediately getting into territory where we don't actually understand exactly how that works, right? But we're going with that premise.
And it may not be possible to work. I mean, this is all theoretical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at that instant, that second copy would indeed be identical to the first. It's the moment that it starts experiencing different things,
Right.
that you can say, well, the copy A has now got different memories in it than copy B.
Right.
All right? But at least at that moment, I don't think that can be in dispute.
Identical, but it's not the same person.
But she's going point by point, and on that point.
Well, I just want to say,
yeah.
She said, I mean, she slipped in something that doesn't sound loaded at first, but which is, what was it? From the point of view of the person in the transporter?
Sure.
The question is, what person is that? Because both of the copies, if there were still two copies, would feel like they were the person in the transporter just now.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The difference in perspective only becomes a thing when, like, they both open their eyes and they're in different rooms. right? And there's different things happening to them. Until that moment, everything inside both of them is identical. That's the premise of copying the data.
Sure.
Copying the data. I'm not saying that has made a case. I'm just pointing out that there is a moment at which it's really hard to argue that one is the original, that one is distinctly different than the other because of its perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? My issue with the Star Trek transporter is that it seems to scan the person being transported while disintegrating them and then creating an exact copy of that data somewhere else. I don't quite understand how Dennis is seeing the continuity there, but maybe they established that a person is conscious through the process in an episode of Star Trek that I haven't seen. And yes.
Well, they're certainly not unconscious during transportation.
We have actually seen many episodes where like guys are fighting and they get transported and they're still fighting, right?
Yeah.
But in particular, there was an episode in Next Generation where that goofy guy character gets transported and we see the process from his perspective. That's the one where he like encounters a monster while he's being transported.
Right.
So that's a thing.
So you're conscious during the duration of the transport. Yeah.
But she doesn't have a problem with that.
She doesn't.
She was just wondering where you got that.
That
Impression from. This is where. Right. However, my issue is with Jeff's claim that if the software is the same, then it's the same person.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, I'd point you at that one moment, at the moment of copying, when there is no difference.
Right.
Right? I'm not sure where you can I know where she's going with this. So at the moment I will say that alone doesn't seem to be enough to establish that they're not the same person, because there is a moment when they are.
Yes, but they're
okay. But when the copies are identical. Right? And she's talking about the copying and whether it's the same or not. There is a moment at which it's exactly the same.
Except location.
Except for location. I agree that outwardly to other people this is the case. However, if I took Jeff and made an exact duplicate somehow, Jeff would not suddenly be experiencing being in both places at once. Well, you're right. If what you mean by Jeff is this copy that's talking at you now, this copy would not experience being in both places at once.
Right.
But there would be an identical copy of this Jeff that was experiencing that. Not being in both places at once. It's not about being in both places at once. It's whether that Jeff over there is also a legitimate Jeff.
Well, no.
It isn't?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's say we make a copy of you on the moon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Woo.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm very
Guess
happy
what?
for
The
that.
guy
Jeff.
who walks
Does that Jeff get a suit?
The guy who walks into the teleport booth on Earth doesn't get to go to the moon.
Understood. Yeah,
right.
not disagreeing with that, but at this point, she says Jeff would not be experiencing both. Nobody's ever suggested.
Right. Nobody suggested
that,
both, but
that
if you're the
that
same
either
person,
copy
you should
would
be is experiencing the same thing, but you're not.
Well, I mean, identicalness is a thing that is going to be transitory. You know, I mean, because we are people and we have experiences and our experiences are recorded as memories, the moment each copy has experiences, they are diverging.
Yeah.
Obviously, and that's not a point of dispute. The question is,
saying when they were identical, they are the same person?
I'm saying that that one is no more objectively the original than the other, except for, you know,
physical
stuff
location.
physical location, stuff that doesn't really matter.
Does it really make a difference?
Well, I think it kind of does. I don't think that now is the time to say that it doesn't matter after we've gotten this far into the conversation, and that has been the crux of the whole argument.
Guy steps into a teleport booth and doesn't get to go anywhere. What does that mean?
Now, wait. What do you mean the guy doesn't get to go anywhere?
He doesn't get to go anywhere.
What if that's the original at the other end? They're identical.
Okay.
So the decision,
there is an original and there is a copy, and the one at the destination is
the decision to make a big deal out of that is entirely subjective.
Yeah.
Why not care? Why not care more about the one that went? Why not elevate that one with a
because there's somebody
term?
left at the other end.
Wait a
Sure,
minute.
there is.
Okay,
Of course,
so
there is, and that individual still deserves, assuming it's not Star Trek where they vaporize you.
One of the things I want to introduce to this thought experiment is suppose I try to imagine or take me seriously if I tell you that this already happened to you, Dennis.
Sure.
2 years ago.
Right?
While you were sleeping, you didn't know.
While I was sleeping. Okay. That changes things.
Excuse me, while a Dennis was sleeping.
Right.
A copy was made, and that's you. And then they did away with the original.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Does that
Yeah. Yes.
Does that make a difference to you now in terms of how you think about yourself or your continuity? Like, does it change your feelings about who you are?
Well, you're saying you.
Yeah.
The you you're talking about is the guy who was killed 2 years ago.
I'm talking about you. I'm looking at you.
Me, I'm 2 years
talking
old.
To you.
What the hell do I know?
Really? Do you?
Yeah,
feel,
I have to be.
assuming
Doesn't
that
matter that I have all
assuming
those
that this really happened. Trying to imagine it. Do you feel 2 years old?
No, I feel like I'm thinking, but I'm not the same guy who closed my eyes when you killed me.
Are the experiences that you have and the memories that you have just things that have built up over the last 2 years?
Well, only the experiences I had over the last 2 years are mine. The experiences before that are copied memories.
Yeah, all right.
What
difference
I've gone, that make?
Russell, I've gone through this with Dennis on the free will thing. Dennis is willing to go as far down the rabbit hole as he needs to in order to maintain his viewpoint.
From my viewpoint, there's a dead guy that was me.
All right.
But no, it wasn't you. It was somebody else.
That's right. If you say that dead guy was you, then you're agreeing that dead guy was you, which you don't want to do. That was some different dead guy.
Sorry, language.
And exactly right. That is a major issue in these discussions.
Yes.
Is we've got language and we've got terminology that is designed for talking about the way we are used to things being, and it's not well suited to the kinds of weird situations you'd get with the addition of the technology. So I think we should all be careful about using loaded terminology to shoehorn a conclusion into the discussion. We should be looking at whether that conclusion is actually justified in its own right. Okay? Yeah. And I'm not saying yours isn't. Yeah. I'm just saying...
Well, here's the thing. You make a perfect copy of the Mona Lisa.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down to the atomic level, right?
Yeah.
Now, one of those two pictures was actually held by Leonardo da Vinci. The other one was never held by Leonardo da Vinci.
What is it about being held by Leonardo da Vinci that is relevant in any sense other than nostalgia?
Value.
What does that? What do you mean?
Value is a completely subjective term set by humans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the value is a built-in component of the Mona Lisa. The value is something that's attributed
to it by. Yeah. So we're entirely free to go, yeah, it's identical atom by atom. Sure, it's identical. It's, that other one got vaporized, but we got this one. We're still good. It is within our power to make that decision because it's a value decision. It is not a question of some objective truth.
Well,
really similar to
one was objectively held by
similar to the Mona Lisa.
Facts. What I'm saying is, I'm not denying the objective facts. I'm saying what's mattering there is our reaction to the objective facts, and our reaction is totally not an objective necessity of itself. We have the freedom to look at it differently.
Sure.
Similar on a lower scale to the Mona Lisa. I take pictures on my phone all the time of moments that I would like to preserve.
Sure.
And then I shuffle them around a lot. Like I upload them to the cloud. I delete them from the phone. Maybe I save them to a CD. Well, I used to save them to a CD. Now what's the point? But when I go to Google Images or Dropbox or wherever the current copy is, I get the same feeling and memory that I was going for when I took the picture. Mm-hmm. There isn't anything about the specific digital media of the picture that encapsulates.
Even though only one set of that data is the one that was produced at the moment Russell was actually there and pressed his button on the finger on the button. But we don't care, and it's the same thing.
Okay, so basically, you could make 1 billion copies of the Mona Lisa, thus rendering the original worthless.
Well, yeah.
Well,
but
you'd render all of them. You'd probably
all of them. Would be
render
worthless.
all of them not worthless, but only worth as much as any other store-bought print.
That's economics.
Yeah,
I mean, if you had a perfect copy of the Mona Lisa, but you destroyed the original, then there's still only one in the world, and I would say it's not worthless. Maybe it's worth to people subjectively a little less than the original, but it's not worth much less. I bet.
No, but see, how much you're willing to pay for a painting is a subjective thing.
True.
If we sent the Mona Lisa through a teleporter, Star Trek teleporter, transporter, and then half of the people who would have been willing to pay millions for the original will now not buy it because, oh shit, it says here in the records it went through a transporter.
Yeah.
Right? Its value would go down. But not because it's any different. It would only be because of the attitudes of the people who now decided that thing is important to them, and that's why they wouldn't pay for it. Okay. However, we're spending a bunch of time on this point when she goes on to a much tougher nut.
Oh, it's great.
Okay. She says, both versions of Jeff would experience being in their own place, seeing an identical twin standing in the other place, and vaporizing the original wouldn't move that experiencing consciousness to the new body. So this is the continuity issue.
Yes.
Right? The new body would indeed have an exact replica of it. I think she means the consciousness. Yeah. But from the original Jeff's perspective, his consciousness hadn't moved. So, what's a consciousness? We don't even entirely, I mean, there's no final answer on that scientifically right now. We've got thoughts on what that is.
So
but
what is it to you?
What is it to
you?
Yeah, what is it to Jeff?
Buddy.
As soon as you phrase it that way, you realize you're taking it back into the realm of the discussion we just had, where it's a what is it?
Well, you took it there by saying we don't know.
We don't?
That's a good point. What do we know scientifically precisely what a consciousness is and how it works? Can we make more on demand and stuff? No, we can't.
I would think.
So that's a damn good point, Dennis.
Yeah.
That's a damn good point that it may be that all we've got to go on at this time is our subjective feelings about it.
Yeah, it seems like it's a process running in a brain.
Yeah, sure.
That's
sure.
what we think.
Sure. But I am willing, since I do not believe in souls, and consciousnesses to me are physical processes running in a brain, totally not magical,
right?
Completely physical.
I'm with you there.
I'm even though it's not absolutely resolved to the level of we can like churn out more whenever we feel like it. I'm going on the premise that we're not going to find anything magical or spiritual or anything other than the physical in it. So a consciousness is a physical process. And so what is it to me? It's a physical process. You want to know what you want to know what it is to me that there's another Jeff over there, right?
Right.
Okay.
There's another physical process.
The point that Christina brings up, which is valid, is that the copy of Jeff that you're talking to right now that is still running the consciousness in this brain would still be running in this brain and not in that one. Mm-hmm. So that one would be a separate copy.
Yes.
But it would be an identical copy. I know exactly who that is. Sure. More than anybody else in the entire universe. Mm-hmm. I know who that is.
Right.
And I know that we completely share goals and motives and everything. What I would like is for our language to accommodate the idea of distributed selves that exist as particles in multiple places and but work together because they're the same.
Sure.
They're on the same team.
Right.
That's terminology we've got now that is kind of sort of what I'm talking about. And yet, I also have what we call a survival instinct.
Yeah.
Right? Which is an inherited impulse that serves the purpose of keeping bodies alive, even in like pre-sentient animals and stuff.
Sure.
So it's not a rational thing. It's not something I have conscious control over. And I would rather, when I'm talking about situations like this, discount that as being relevant to the question. Even though I'm gonna feel fear when I feel fear, right?
Right.
Best I can do is try to understand. Okay, I had to. There was a thing that meant so much to me that I had to be in Paris in 2 seconds, and the only way to do that is going to be to step into this box and be vaporized so that a copy of me appears in Paris.
Right.
And I'm using that terminology because that's what our language lets me say, right? I think that's not just merely a copy. I think that is my absolute identical twin who will be thinking the same thoughts I'm thinking after those 2 seconds of building them over there, right? And will handle the thing that I care about that was the reason I needed to be in Paris as well as I could, for the exact same reasons that I do, and therefore I would try to overcome my fear and do it.
I would not.
Okay. Well,
because the guy who stepped into the booth at the start isn't the guy who ends up in Paris.
Okay.
He's
I okay. Well, I've had my say.
Yeah.
You have anything to add, Russell?
I don't know. I'm still mostly with you, Jeff.
Let's see what Christina goes on for.
I understand the unease also, and it's hard to say. A lot of the thought experiments around this, like let's say a certain Christopher Nolan movie that is the kind of thing that you don't want to watch spoiled, but a certain movie about a couple of magicians, raise legitimate philosophical points about this process, but also stack the deck by telling a story and presenting it in such a way that it delivers an emotional punch that comes down on one side or the other.
Now, according to my fetish for continuity, I'll step into the transporter to go to Paris in 2 seconds if I get to experience the dissolve from one location.
Right, and you know what that is?
Then
that's your survival instinct.
Yeah,
that is a sop to your unconscious, instinctive survival drive. And all I'm saying is, when we're talking about stuff like this, I don't think nostalgia, that just thinking, ooh, it's neat that this one had Picasso's hands on it. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Picasso.
I can't ignore human nature.
Every technological advance,
program myself,
every technological advance,
change my nature.
But every technological advance is about overcoming human nature.
That's a bold claim, but
at the very least, it's about overcoming human expectations. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, when automobiles came out, people were terrified if you went over 25 miles an hour, your head would explode or whatever it was, right? That is exactly the kind of stuff to set aside and see if there's anything, really solid and sound there. And the same thing with instincts. You've got instincts that were developed, that were evolved for the purpose of keeping your body going so you could make babies, because that's what evolution developed into making happen.
Right. And you're ignoring those instincts?
I am discounting them as relevant to the question of what is in fact actually going on here. Because otherwise, we're just letting our desires and fears stand in the way of cool shit that we could do. That, and that I just don't think that's worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's my
transhumanist perspective. For those people out there who insist on wanting to hear me talk about it,
I'm also going to add to the last thing you said, Dennis, that you'd be okay with stepping into the transporter as long as you had that continuity of consciousness the whole time.
Yeah.
I understand that. And yet, if they said, sure, you'll have continuity all the way through, and then you get to the other end and they're like, oh, we lied. You've been out for, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You'd be pissed.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
But ultimately, it would not, if they didn't tell you that thing.
A copy of me would be pissed, yeah.
But
really?
Somehow,
what did they do to your copy?
This is a copy.
What did they? You're the copy now. What did they do to you?
That 10 seconds or even 1 microsecond makes the difference between your consciousness magically transmitting from one place to another and your consciousness being nowhere to be found, and that makes no sense to me. Like the 1 microsecond, it doesn't seem to make a difference to me.
It's not, but
makes a big difference.
That's the thing, Russell. It's not. I get it, right? And I think that what we're if such technologies are ever developed, they will be developed with an eye toward appealing to those instincts and impulses that people have.
Yes.
Because the makers of the technology will want to be able to make some money off of it, and they won't be able to get people to step in
get people
if they
to
haven't.
Use it. Yeah.
If they haven't, well, that's how you make money on it, is having it being used, right? People will not step in when they are still bound by their instincts and impulses.
Well, we're talking Star Trek teleporters. We don't have to worry about making money.
I
don't believe that. That's the thing I find least believable about Star Trek. But
can I finish my point?
Yes.
Let me finish my point.
Sorry,
right.
Sorry.
So I think it totally will be catered to, but I also think just like the way cars eventually, they went faster than 25 and people got used to it and they stopped worrying about it. Transporters will, if we ever get them, will stop being about catering to those instincts and impulses once people are used to them, and they will just go and do their thing, and everybody will be cool with it, and that worry will be a thing of the past.
I'll tell you how that will play out based on past technologies. What's going to happen is
we do.
A lot of old people who are like in past their 20s, let's say, when transporters are invented, will freak out and be paranoid and never get over it. Some of them will never take transporters. Some of them will take transporters but be uneasy.
Yeah. They're children.
But people who are born after transporters are invented will just grow up thinking this is normal, and they'll have no qualms about it, and the old people will die.
Yeah.
That's the way it always works in the world.
Okay, so we want to move on from transporters, but Christina had one more paragraph. Let's see if there's anything in here that we have to chew on. This isn't a big issue with me with computer software, since having an exact replica means it'll work the same, and thus is just as useful to me as any other instance of that software, which is what I'm saying. Okay. However, creating a copy of my own mind's software someone else would only be the same to other people. Well, that's true only if it's a destructive Star Trek kind of transporter, right? Mm-hmm. If that's how it has to work, people will factor that in to whether they will use it. But it could be that it's not about I want to jump on a weird tangent here, okay?
Yes. Okay.
You guys ever watching the show Travelers on Netflix?
I am.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm only partway into season 2.
How many seasons do you think it's going to take before everybody on the planet is a time traveler from the future? Because it's just like
really burning through those regular people.
It's astonishing. They have to be aware of that. So it could be that that we get transporter technology that doesn't destroy the original, doesn't have to, and then it would be a waste to do it, so you don't, right? And then you make a copy of yourself in Paris, and then you call your copy on the phone and say, okay, you're going to be able to make that meeting, and your other you goes, yeah, right? And then there's two of you, and that brings up legal issues, and that will all need to be addressed. But again, I don't see any ultimate obstacle to that, other than, there'd be two of you now to feed and clothe clothe and house.
That also brings up some kind of gross issues when it comes to like wealth disparity, because rich people will be able to make a lot of copies of themselves and then use their wealth to crowd out people who were already underprivileged and now will just be that much worse off.
Right.
So that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christina finishes, unless it turns out that souls are real and I'm suddenly experiencing two positions at once. I don't know why souls being real would make you experience two positions at once. That's never been part of the mythology of souls.
Not that mythology.
I don't know of any examples of claims by soul believers that these two individuals share the exact same soul, and therefore they both experience absolutely everything that each other experiences. I've seen like bullshit telepathy claims, right? Yeah. That's like, oh, when my sister feels pain, I feel it too. That's not the same thing. That's not the same fucking thing as they're the same person.
Right.
Then two copies of me would be different people who would both experience each other as very similar twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar. I think that is worth some consideration of just how similar we're talking, right? The most similar person you've ever met is nowhere near as similar as an identical copy of you would be.
Yeah.
All right. And the rest of that we've had our say about this other things. Yeah. So I know. Look, we have spent a crap ton of time on this technology.
Would you believe not it's actually about
exist.
Time? Yeah, to do a segment.
No.
All right. Then I'm gonna delete our two very short other letters on this subject and move on.
But I am just going to echo Will's sentiment. You should play the game Soma. or at least watch a walkthrough because it's a horror game and very scary, but it touches on a lot of these issues.
Yeah, okay.
So Soma, S-O-M-A.
Yeah. So, speaking of echoing.
Yeah. Speaking of echoing,
Speaking of echoing?
we may truncate this a little bit, but it's time for shit Internet apologists say.
Wow.
Well done.
Very beautifully done.
Just keeping you on your toes, Vern.
Okay. So, what do we got?
Yeah, where did this come from? Oh, no. Wait. I have it right here, and it is from @Cootie59, who's a frequent contributor via Twitter, who posts with hashtag nonprofits news all the time, like you can if you want to bring anything to my attention. And the actual thing, I mean, I appreciated receiving this because I always like a break from picking on Christian apologists. We got something from the Bangalore Mirror in India Times, and it is a claim dated December 24th that there are no false gods in Hinduism.
What does that even mean? Are there supposed to be false gods in Hinduism?
I don't know. We'll see what he says. And I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Do I attempt a silly Indian accent for this, or do I just let that go?
Oh, gosh.
All right, pass.
Do we like this guy?
Doubtful.
Okay. Is it would it be fun and delightful and nice to hear the
I'm going to do 2 sentences and then I'm going to stop.
All right.
So for those of you who are offended by that sort of thing, just fast forward 20 seconds. The Hindutva Brigade despises Christian missionaries, though Hindus have always valued missionary schools. Secular media would okay.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
All right, 1 and 2 words. Secular media would like to reduce Hindutva attacks on missionaries into a simple villain-victim narrative. Now, I don't actually know what incident
I
he's
hate that
referring
word
to here.
The word narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
But those interested in going deeper will realize it has much to do with the incompatibility of their respective mythologies. While I'm reading this, could one of you look up Hindutva attacks on missionaries?
Oh, Dennis is doing it. He's got a whole laptop.
Because I
Got
think
my dinky little phone.
Yes. I think he is saying this in reaction to some incident that makes Hindus potentially look bad, which
Hindu.
Hindutva. Thank you.
TVA.
1 word.
A-T-T-A-C-K-S. Okay, go on.
Okay. Let me know when you've got something. Missionaries speak of one God and rejection of false gods. They cannot accommodate multiple manifestations of the divine. By contrast, Hinduism celebrates diversity, many gods, which some people view as polytheism and others as qualified monotheism, where the same one God manifests as multiple gods.
Yeah.
Well, the Hindutva terrorism is about the protection of cows.
Oh, so we had been reading, discussing this issue.
Right. Attacking Muslims.
Well,
under the
in this
impression
case,
that they're
he's mentioning Christian
cows.
missionaries.
Oh, Christian missionaries.
Which,
all right.
So let me get this straight. He is taking the opportunity of some Hindus murdering some people from a competing religion to launch into an explanation of why his religion is cool anyway.
I suspect that is in fact the case.
Well, okay, maybe.
All right.
I think all right. I know where I hope he's going.
Oh, where? Well,
I hope this turns into you see, all these gods are okay by Hinduism, therefore you shouldn't be killing people that have gods whose names you don't happen to recognize.
That would be a better position to take.
You can find nice paths through crazy religious beliefs, and that would be a nice path through that one. But
right.
ultimately, I wish they would all just shut up and stop
Stop
living their lives about invisible dudes. But
no, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's true that just because some people of your religion killed some people doesn't mean you can't find the nice path, and I'm the first to jump in and say that. But it still seems like it's a little in poor taste to explain how the religion doesn't say anything like that when you're reacting to an actual terrorist attack that just happened based on believing these things.
Really? Really? I mean...
Okay. Go for it.
What are people who don't share that interpretation of the viewpoint supposed to do, Russell? Are they supposed to do they have to shut up and say nothing? What can they not legitimately say yes, we have the same religion as that guy that did the bad thing, but we think that he misinterpreted it? I mean, I think it's all bullshit.
Fair.
I think it's all bullshit, but why do we want to stop the people who are trying to come up with I will then turn around on those first people if they are lying, which is often the case in religion, right?
Yes.
Lying
you say your religion doesn't say that, but look here at this passage from your holy book. And what you find is that it's not that your religion doesn't say that; it's that you don't say that because you have chosen to ignore that passage or bend over backwards to interpret it to come out nice. Right. Yeah. Glad you do that, but I'd be more glad if you weren't continuing to prop up the stupid teachings in the first place.
Yeah, it's just that saying somebody is lying by saying their religion means one thing and not another is a real fuzzy proposition.
You're right.
No,
means
when it comes to people like believing a bunch of nonsense and then putting their own spin on it, like if they really believe it, then in their heads they're not lying, even if it's not true.
Right. So, but the tricky word there is means.
Right.
What a religion means. Call me crazy. I think things should mean what they say. But we all know that's not how religions operate.
That's not how religions operate.
That's why I don't like any of them.
No.
Even the nice ones. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
In August 2017, when a Ganesha icon was taken into a church in the Spanish regions of Ceuta and Melilla, the presiding Christian priest, Vicar General Father Juan Jose Mateos Castro, was forced to resign in disgrace following outrage from church officials. We would like to say that all religions are the same and they all preach love.
There we go.
But the reality is polytheistic mythologies such as Hinduism have no problem with monotheistic mythologies of Christianity or Islam or Judaism. But... okay, I'm trying to parse this next thing. The opposite is not true. In fact, monotheistic mythologies despise each other. True, too.
Yeah,
sure.
This is true.
Do.
This is true.
Yeah.
Do you not get within? I've always wondered this. Do you not get in religions like Hinduism like competition between the different followers of the different gods of that?
You mean like
polytheistic
the Greek gods?
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to one that isn't followed.
Way.
Do you ever have I'm going to go Norse because now there's Norse guys. Yeah. Name me some crusty old religion that's dead and gone.
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of Thor movies lately, so people are familiar with all.
All right, fine. So did we ever have a problem with like the Thor cult being at odds with the Freya cult? Over stuff where they would like come to blows?
I don't think they
I guess
they
not.
Go with that team mentality. I don't think they do that.
Huh.
Because
you
appeal
of course,
to each god for
because
its,
of course,
its purview.
Christianity is not freaking monotheist in the absolute sense, right? First of all, you got the three-part God.
Yeah.
And I totally want to see the followers of the Holy Ghost go, in the streets with baseball bats fighting the followers of Jesus, right? The Son. But then you also got a Satan on top of that, and you totally get the Satan followers going at it against the God followers. And I mean, of course, the actual Satan followers, the actual Christianity's Satan
Which
followers,
I'm not sure
and
if there
not
even are
and not the posers who like to pretend that who like to present the image that they have something to do with a completely other religion's figure, but really they've got their own thing. And just confuse everything in a fashion that deeply irritates me. But anyway,
and
we'll get letters about that, but maybe it'll get us off the freaking Star Trek transporters.
Apologies to that one guy who runs the Church of Satan, but not really apologies.
I'm not apologizing to that guy. So anyway,
what's his name? Damien something? Something.
But I love the things
something
they do.
stereotypical sounding. I forget.
I love the things they
Anyway.
I love some things they do. I love some things some Christians do.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
The religious coloring books are hilarious. The Satanist coloring
a separate
books,
question.
very funny, but
legal trolling is great.
yeah.
So,
where did these Hindus go? Shoot, too many
so
tabs.
I think this guy would have a point if Christianity was really,
yeah.
and I don't know. Have we had conflicts between Norse pantheon followers and Roman pantheon followers? Does that happen?
Well, that was called
like,
the Roman expansion into.
Yeah, but was it about conflict about the religious beliefs?
I
don't know I just don't know the history either.
For example, the whole story of the French comic book character Asterix is about the Romans going after these pagan culture. Good. There we go. So we'll use this cartoon as evidence that in but
fact,
I think
that's
the cartoon is based on something vaguely historical.
So that there now, if that is in fact something historical, then this guy whose article you are reading is full of crap.
Well, I think he's trying to only limit it to Hinduism, but he is kind of making this general point about polytheism versus monotheism, which you're right is not really true.
Okay, good.
Hang in there, though. He's going to go after atheism, too.
Yay!
Oh, boy.
As long as we're not left out.
Secularism is conflicted between allowing all gods, polytheistic or Hindu approach, or rejecting all gods, atheistic or Christian approach.
Tolerating all gods, yeah. Or tolerating the
That's
followers
not
of all
secularism
gods.
Isn't atheism, though.
True.
No.
Religious secularists do indeed have that conflict that he just talked about.
Nehruvian secularism, which I haven't heard of, sought to make the idea of India greater than all gods, religions, and castes
this
of
guy
India.
Nehru, I think. It's Neh?
Yes. Like a jacket.
Wow, I know one guy's last name in India, and so two references to that last name. I assume it's the same dude. Shows you how much. Shows you how much I know, which is essentially nothing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. However, over time, minority religions and castes were seen as being treated as favorites at the cost of Hinduism, angering many Hindus. For a guy who's trying to say that all religions are fine, he seems to have a bone to pick about Hinduism specifically not getting a fair shake. Hindutva has taken advantage of this anger, but has turned the nation state into a goddess, Bharat Mata, and demands she be venerated like a Hindu deity, overshadowing all other deities, knowing full well that Hindus can do that relatively easily, but not Christians or Muslims with their doctrine of never bowing before false gods.
Who is this dude? I want to know background now. I mean, if he is a Hindu priest,
this dude
it would tell us a lot, because that would be his job then.
Devdut Patanayak.
Yeah. It's not a clickable link?
No.
About the author?
I mean,
maybe at the bottom?
I'm going to real quick Google it, but He's got his own website, devdoot.com, and I'm sure that's totally unbiased. The top of his thing, he is a speaker, illustrator, these cute little animations, mythologist, author. And then at the top of his website, it says, myth equals belief equals subjective truth equals cultural assumptions. Mythology
I think that's actually pretty good looking.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's just Joseph Campbell kind of stuff. If it means what the words say, which we can't always assume that.
Religions don't have the greatest track record.
There are quite a few articles here, or blog posts or whatever, like focusing on things that are terrible, like the prosperity gospel. So he is at least a Hindu who leverages his position to go after other religions while saying that they're all fine.
Okay.
But, somebody else can look this up. In a Hindu temple, I'm skipping a little bit now. In a Hindu temple, there were always many gods, the principal god being the most powerful belonging to the ruler. When the ruler was defeated, his deity would be claimed by the winner. The god of the losing king was never rejected. It was never false. It was just lower in the hierarchy. Right. So, in Puri Temple, Odisha.
And so there's another example of infighting among the followers of different deities of a pantheon. And I recall historical references to that sort of thing happening in ancient Egypt, where different cults would be supreme in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that in fact happens. But
in case there are any StarCraft fans out there, it's basically like the primal Zerg who fight their rivals and consume their essence and then gain their DNA and become stronger.
Oh, cool.
Is that what it's like?
Very scientific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, this is skipping to near the end now. Modern doctrines of secularism, atheism, democracy, even science are structurally aligned to the monotheistic mythology of Christianity, where there is only room for one truth. There's no such thing as other truths. There are only false gods. This is the result of centuries of colonization.
Okay, lost me.
And subsequent power of the Western discourse.
I don't, I mentioned Joseph Campbell before, but I'm not a huge fan because he kind of goes off on, he's like got this soft spot for, boy, I wish I could believe all this crap. Mm-hmm. Or maybe that's, what's his name, the reporter that interviewed him a lot. And this guy has gone off that same cliff.
Yeah.
So, no, dude, the reason why...
To be fair, I think he started mostly below the cliff already.
The reason why we're talking about, a single truth is because, in at least above the quantum level, then when you do an experiment, it comes out a certain way. Right, because physical things do specific things. Now, if what he's talking about are interpretations, then he doesn't have a problem with science in the way he thinks he does, because thinking whether something an opinion as to whether something is good or bad is not a scientific opinion. It is a more of a personal judgment. But that ought to be based on the facts of the thing, underlying the thing you're talking about. So it's still important, and he shouldn't be saying crazy shit like he's saying.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know we're trying to end it, get near an ending here.
Yeah. So he goes off on a number of local competing religions, including Jainism and Mahayana Buddhism. And he says Hindus can always see Jesus as a form of the divine, but will Christians ever be able to see Ganesha as another manifestation of Jehovah?
Yes, moron. Some Christians actually do.
Yes.
Some, like liberal Christians here in the U.S., will totally agree with you about all the crap you just said.
For sure.
Including the, gotta attack science lest it be seen as any more valid than any of your bullshit. Yeah, that totally happens. Maybe that's not happening in India, so maybe what he has to say is more relevant
it's
there.
rare-ish among religious people here, but we have so many religious people here that we run into all kinds of people.
Yeah.
A Hindu will celebrate atheism, but will the atheist celebrate monotheism or polyism?
Why will he? No. Why will a Hindu celebrate atheism? What the hell is that? Given what all he just said, why on earth would a Hindu celebrate atheism?
He is trying to position himself as the guy who's above it all and loves everybody.
Yeah.
And the shots he's taking are just, well-earned.
Okay.
Yeah. These are the questions we need to ponder as we move ahead in the 21st century.
Did you take a New Year's? Do you make a New Year's resolution that you'd spend more time on non-Christian religions on the show?
No, I did not.
You didn't?
This just came up, and I like spending time on non-Christian religions sometimes.
All right, it was interesting, but it's harder to poke at because we have less background in it.
True, but yeah. But it's good practice.
I agree, and I applaud. Okay, Dennis, do you have a question?
No, I got no question today, I'm afraid.
I got one more listener mail thing.
No.
Actually, I got two, Charlie writes, things beginning to exist. Is that a thing that things actually do?
Not that I've ever seen.
This is something that
I think transport yourself.
I think you might.
Other you.
I think you might like this one, Russell.
Okay.
This is something that has always made my brain itch when someone brings up Kalam. I think there is a hidden equivocation in the very first phrase.
Sure.
The first premise of the Kalam cosmological argument begins with a phrase similar to, dude? You couldn't have quoted it exactly?
I don't think there's a official.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there?
I mean,
an official phrase.
Well, these are just
Russell. You got more background in this. Tell us if this is fair. Whatever begins to exist. ... Is that a fair opening?
Yeah.
That is almost the exact words that, like William Lane Craig would say.
All right. Well, let us know if it's inexact in a way that undermines Charlie's point. I think the argument's intended definition of begin to exist is when matter just shows up one day where there had been no matter before. It's certainly has to be encompassed by it, or they can't handle the Big Bang.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's the magical poof sort of beginning to exist.
Yes.
Right.
I think this is the definition being used when they say the universe began to exist. Yeah. This is
According to Iron Chariots, it says William Lane Craig's version of Kalam is as follows. 1, everything that begins to exist has a cause. 2, the universe began to exist. Therefore,
so he's just talking about the beginning to exist part. So
it's this number 2 premise that is even semantically hard to assert.
Right. Well, it's the number 1 premise that's hard to assert too.
Right.
I mean, you have no examples.
We have no we have no frame of reference.
We have never observed a thing beginning to exist. Yes.
Using an alternate definition, one might say that a person began to exist when they were born or conceived, or that a painting began to exist when it was painted, or when it was created by a Star Trek transporter. In this sense, things begin to exist all the time through a rearrangement of existing matter. But I've never heard anyone argue that the universe began to exist because a bunch of existing stuff was rearranged to make it.
Right.
Well,
and they equivocate on that.
Yeah.
They flip between the two things.
You should be open to the possibility that the universe began to exist because pre-existing stuff is arranged to make it, because that might turn out to be necessary as explanation of the Big Bang.
It's the only thing we've ever observed.
I'm not arguing that it's more or less likely than anything else. I'm just saying, if there are precursors to the Big Bang, that could result in that discovery could result in a understanding that there was some stuff, even if the stuff wasn't matter in the sense that we're used to, right? That there were some conditions that existed prior. Examples of things beginning to exist due to a cause in the make a painting sense are numerous and trivial, but examples of the magical poof sense aren't.
Yeah.
In fact, the only example I can come up with is virtual particles, which explicitly have no initiating cause.
Right. They are causeless. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it might be an effective and pithy refutation of Kalam to just flatly assert that nothing ever begins to exist for a reason.
Right, for a reason.
I would soften that a little. I would personally say, how do you know that anything begins to exist? Because
what does he mean by for a reason?
Again, it's everything that begins to exist has a cause, which is what he's meaning by
he should be saying
for
due
a cause.
To a cause.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite the right way to put it.
Yeah,
I think the thing you got to get at is specifically the magical poof version. And by just using their language back at them, you're going to leave them with the impression that they're having it both ways is still on the table. You got to flatly assert that nothing ever just poofs into existence.
So workshopping this a little bit, I think the correct follow-up question is, what do you mean by begins to exist? Can you give me an example?
Yes.
And when they do, then you've pinned them into one interpretation or the other, and you can choose where to go from there.
Yeah. Now, to make it sound more impressive, rather than using the word poof, you can use ex nihilo. Isn't that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I argue with somebody, like for an audience, I like to avoid...
Poof is actually pretty good.
I like to avoid fancy words because the Christian's goal is always to obfuscate and confuse people.
And you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. And it's really fun to demean their argument by putting it in terms like that. As long as you're being fair and accurate, fine. But make sure that you're fair and accurate, and you don't just demean because it's fun.
Right.
Refuting somebody's argument by making them sound silly is in some cases a logical fallacy, but it's also an effective emotional tactic.
Right.
You know.
Right. Okay. I think we've had a show.
Yep, I guess we have.
So.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. So, shall I take us out?
Are you ready to?
Yeah.
You got your hick voice all lined up?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So there you go. I'm sure the God Bothers will be whining and complaining because they know there'll be another show in 2 weeks on the 17th. So till then, just enjoy the